Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength. And this video is a little bit ahead of schedule here. I'm moving on to a new block at this point. Essentially, I'm starting my Raw Nationals prep a little bit early. I'm calling it a prep, but it's really just the last 2 months or 2 blocks of training heading into the competition and, a lot more directed planning into that meet. So really what happened here was I was halfway through. I was 4 weeks into the last block and things were going fine, but I have some thoughts on particularly squats and deadlifts that I'll talk about through this block and some moves that I was planning on making anyway moving into the next block, and then really just thinking about timing for Raw Nationals. I was either going to have to finish that last block and then do a really short one before my last full block heading into the competition, or I could stop that one a little bit earlier and have 2 full blocks heading into the meet, which basically I felt like I could be doing some things better with squats and deadlifts, so I decided to jump into that. On top of that, I'm also going to be coaching this coming week at Teen Nationals, so I'll be traveling throughout the week, and then I have a big competition down here in Texas that I'm handling something like 13 lifters at. So just a few kind of crazy weeks coming up, and so I would prefer to be doing some light training during those times rather than really heavy training. But one of my biggest thoughts at the moment is just that my bench press is going so exceptionally well that things really could not be going much better here. So if you looked at the last block or really just anything that I said about my training in my last program review, particularly on bench press, I would say pretty much all of that holds true. I didn't change much in this block. I probably don't have a lot of plans to change things heading into the national training. I just think that stuff is going about as well as it could. So I'm not gonna add much to my bench press training, just with my voiceover. I think a lot of those days I'll kind of leave alone and just let the footage play unless I have just little random thoughts. But yeah, that just really could not be going better. So I'll talk a little bit more about squats and deadlifts when we get into that. But bench press, really all you got to know is it's going awesome. One of the first changes that we'll see just in block design here is I switched around some of the days a little bit. One of the biggest things for me that I've done forever, basically at this point, is I've had my first squat session in the week be a lighter squat day, and a lot of that I would say is influenced more by lifestyle than anything else. I'm particularly busy with check-ins and just general kind of work stuff that I have to do, particularly on Sundays and Mondays. And so my training, I always just feel distracted, I think, early in the week. While I may have a good opportunity to be fresh, I think a lot of times going into these day 1 sessions, I may feel physically fresh, but mentally, I'm just not quite there yet. I think I get into a good groove work-related, but training flow, I think, kind of picks up throughout the week. And so that was something that I was really noticing in my last block, was that the one previous, I actually had kind of accidentally, my first squat day had turned into my best squat day. And so I tried to write a block that had that planned, and it just kind of went back to some patterns that I have, I guess at this point, are tried and true. That my earliest training squat session just does not feel quite as good, and I think it's more so just a mental thing more so than anything else. So one of my other thoughts, and I mentioned it in my last block intro, was I still had some skepticism that I just was not doing enough reps overall to maintain some squat technique, and especially as I was leaning into a little bit of the lower rep work and a little bit more intensity. And that was something that I really started to feel as as that concept was really dragging on. So as I was getting into like, the 9th, 10th week of really only one squat set on that first day and then belt squats behind it, I just was generally feeling like I should be doing more rep work overall to just find a good rhythm and flow and everything. So that was one of the biggest things, I guess, that I switched to with both squats and deadlifts, which we'll actually see that I went back to deadlifting twice a week, and I just added the lighter deadlifts onto this first day. So instead of doing a hinge movement that I was pushing kind of hard, I'm actually now going to be adding some light deadlifts here. And this is something that I'm kind of, this is another, I guess, little experiment, is that I think I've gotten a lot of success from pushing the hinge dominant work. And I think that that's something that I'm going to use a whole lot of, but also at the moment, giving myself a little bit more exposure to the skill component of the deadlifting, doing some really light rep work right here while I've made some really good progress on the stiff leg deadlifts and the RDLs and all of those movements over the last 3-4 months. I think at this point, from now into Raw Nationals, including a second deadlift day might allow me a little bit more natural flow just with my training. And ideally here, what the concept would be is the light squats, the light deadlifts should not have me feeling very fatigued, very beat up at all. So my other 2 training days, everything else stays the same the rest of the week. So those two training days should feel very, very fresh and just a little bit more practiced. And I think we got a little bit of exposure to that already. So that's really my biggest change, I guess, in this block is going back to more of a traditional structure. And maybe just some thoughts on that is that, you may have a random good block here and there that ends up kind of surprisingly having a very good day that's outside of what you would normally expect it to be. But I think those things are worth looking into, but we should always be interested in why those things are happening. So really what we're seeing in this block more so than anything is me returning to some structure that I feel like I've proven to be closer to the best for me, with some things like some moderately high rep work, even some low percentages on some of my my secondary days that I'm really not planning on pushing particularly hard, and just trying to make sure that skill component is there for the time being. Okay, so moving back into, I guess we'll call this back half of the week, more of my primary work stuff. Going back to singles on my deadlifts, on the primary deadlift, we'll call this. I guess it's day 4 now of my training block. But anyway, this is the first time since the Virginia Pro, that competition, I'm actually doing deadlift singles again. Most of what I've been doing is a little just bit more rep work. Not really for any reason in particular, but more so trying to give myself opportunities to push other rep ranges, just maybe more so of a mental thing, just trying to allow myself chances to be able to invest in other things mentally, more so than just getting too caught up in only the single that I'm doing. But things have been going really well there, but making sure that I'm skilled enough again that I actually feel practice with the singles. I don't think that one block, if I were to just move back into singles heading into Raw Nationals, I don't think that would be too risky of a move. But I've had a lot of success here by doing more singles before, and just wanted to make sure that things like the timing with the grip and just practice overall were where they need to be. So this is a pretty good starting point. I mean, I did maybe a couple of blocks ago, 2 blocks ago, I did a set of 6 with what I did my single at on this day. I did a set of 6 with 750, but obviously like straps and training for sets of 6. And actually on this day, I ended up feeling a little bit of that knee pain that I ended up having heading into the Virginia Pro. So the single, this felt comfortable enough. Maybe a tad bit more hesitant off the floor than I should have been, or that I would have liked to have been with that, feeling that just a little bit, but really just ended up being conservative on the back down work, and skipped the belt squats that I had planned on this day and ended up just doing some back extensions. So that'll be something that I'm monitoring moving forward. Obviously, I don't want that to pop up and cause any issues. I would like to be able to continue to deadlift twice a week. I don't at the moment think that the addition of the second deadlift day is what triggered my knee. I just kind of think that it happens to me here and there. Not too worried about it at the moment, but keeping my eye on things and seeing when I need to adjust. So mostly this day is, I would say, pretty standard as far as the stuff that I've been doing, but just return to the single and kind of keeping the work even overall. Really, my only comment on this bench press day is just another comment on how well that it's going. I think one of the main things that's going on just generally conceptually at this point is that I did stop the last block earlier than I would have. I was through week 4, but I wasn't really feeling beat up or anything. I wasn't really feeling like I needed a deload in any way. So I'm moving into this block, and my first week is a little bit reduced volume, reduced intensity, so that I can move cleanly into the rest of the block. So keeping the RPEs a little bit lighter overall. But I think that I can't give myself too much credit as a starting point, because I do feel fairly well trained from the last block. But with all that being said, I'm still super happy with what I, in my head, as a starting point for this block. So, to start off with what's going to be a very, very comfortable single with 180 kilos here. So 396 pounds was my top single on bench press. And there's been many blocks, especially through last year with my pec strain stuff going on, that a lot of times this was the heaviest I ever got in these blocks. So now to start off here and just feel very conservative with that is really, really good. And I just feel like pretty much every session is feeling a little bit better. So yeah, 205 benched, so 451 pounds is my PR that I hit maybe 6 weeks ago or so, and I'm really hoping for a lot more this block and heading into Raw Nationals. So final day of the week here, and back on the normal schedule of having my heaviest squat day at the end of the week, and just already, in my head, my mental, my emotional investment felt a lot better. It felt a lot more natural to be doing this here, and it's also the first time I've done a squat single since the Virginia Pro, so that was also nice mentally to have that in there, to be able to warm up, not feeling like I had a scary rep set at the top was something that was nice after a few months of not doing these things. So I ended up only working up to 290 kilos, so 639 pounds, and it felt really, really good. I've changed my warm-up scheme recently. I've pushed up my last 2 warm-ups, which is something I don't do very often. I only change my warm-ups if I'm really feeling like the top end of my squat has kind of outpaced what some of my lower warm-ups are. So this is a plan to be able to actually make easier attempt selections at the top end. Traditionally, I've just done 220 kilos right here, and then 250 kilos, 280, and then kind of jump from there. But I'm kind of feeling like some of the numbers in the 310-ish range will be more accessible as kind of some common singles. So I wanted my warm-ups to reflect that, and then also planning for what these reps, what these singles need to be planned out at Raw Nationals for warm-ups. So getting familiarized, getting comfortable with what this warm-up pattern really feels like. So to some degree, there's a little bit of an adjustment. Like this warm-up right here, it generally is like one that kind of feels heavier to me, but pretty solid day. So top single at 290, and this should be kind of last warm-up range moving forward, especially kind of calling it last warm-up at Raw Nationals is really the overall plan. But really, really nice start to the block. Feeling pretty good. The knee pain didn't bother me much here. I was able to do belt squats, so don't think it's something to be worried about too much, but overall really good start to this block. I'm going to be trying to maintain my schedule of videos. I've been doing a good job actually coming out with videos every week, and I still do have a bunch of videos planned moving forward. So despite the busy schedule, I think people can still expect a lot more of the educational content coming out here pretty soon. So this training won't have a recap until probably 6-ish weeks from now when I'm wrapping up the block. And between now and then, we should have a lot more educational content overall. And my plan is to make a full video on meet day stuff, so my perspective as a coach, and then people's experience as a lifter when I'm handling all of those lifters. Here at the beginning of April, I'll be making a video out of that, so we should have maybe a complete guide to meet day. So anyway, I appreciate all you guys taking the time to watch these videos. Should have a lot more stuff coming up here pretty soon. If you don't already, you can go get this free program on my website. And if you have any questions, let me know. But as always, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.